house. I'm giving her the kids and your house and the Strait of Hormuz to be on the same page. What? But Your Honor, the Strait of Hormuz was never on the cards in the first place. How did I win the argument and lose the Strait of Hormuz? More on that later. Some people say the day my child was born was the most beautiful, the most exciting day of my life. Have you heard this? These people have never been released from an Iranian prison. Really, the most beautiful day of your life? English language is full of empty slogans like honesty is the best policy. Have you heard this? People who say honest is the best policy have never been released from an Iranian prison. Honesty might get you in one, it won't get you out. I'm fascinated by languages, different expressions, pronunciations. You know, I love doing gigs in America because whenever I perform in the US, if something doesn't work, I always blame it on the language barrier. Any Brits here? Yeah. Okay, cool. I need just one for some of these jokes. Some of these jokes are going to be your niche, personalized jokes. Great. Yeah, that's very British. Yeah, low-key, self-deprecating. I don't want to make a scene. You know, Americans and Brits, they speak the same language, but Americans pronounce some stuff wrong. Let's be real. Sometimes it's not a big deal. It's something minor. For example, Americans say aluminum, Brits say aluminium, Americans say laboratory, Brits say laboratory. What else? Americans say liberty,
Potatoes.
liberty. Brits say, blimey, 2 years in jail for a bloody tweet, mate? Is that accurate? Yeah. So you see the pronunciation starts becoming significantly different. What else? Americans say diversity. Diversity. Brits say, Ashhadu anna Muhammad. It's a proper different dialect. So I wanted to bring in my wife and kids this time around, but the war started, and my wife said it's not safe. It's not safe. I said, so you don't want me to go? She said, no, you go. You must process the pain. She doesn't sound like that, by the way. Her accent is not scary. Her face is scary, but I can't show you her face, so I adapt the accent. Right? So I arrived at the airport at Ben Gurion, and I was a bit worried they might not let me in because of the Iranian connection, but the border security was very helpful. They said, sir, we have been looking into the content of Donald Trump's imminent deal with Tehran, and turns out this week you are not the biggest threat to Israel's security. Welcome. My first airliner canceled, so Abi told me to book El Al because El Al is a bit tougher, less likely to cancel, and they didn't, to be fair to them. But the problem when you fly El Al, this is on you. This bit is not on YouTube. How are you ahead of me? Now this is the interactive part of the show where I make a pause so everybody comes up with their own El Al joke. And at the end of the show we're going to have a Q&A so we can compare notes and see who came up with what joke. But from my perspective, the problem when you fly with El Al is that 55% of passengers are babies.
Absolutely true.
That's a bit inconvenient for me, but it is a good thing when you think about it, because this proportion ratio of passengers proves that accusations of genocide against Israel are totally baseless. You guys are not trying to genocide the enemy, you are trying to outbreed them. You know, sometimes in Europe, when somebody denies the Holocaust, they are forced to go to Auschwitz and pay a visit. I think anybody who accuses Israel of genocide must be forced to take a flight with El Al. So we accompany them down the aisle. Look at them. Do these people look like people who want to genocide anybody? Do they have the time and the energy? This poor man has both arms. Here's with two kids. There's another kid hanging from his leg. He has no time to genocide nobody. Yeah, this is a dream. But when I was a child, I had another big dream. When I was a child, I wanted to be Italian. Anyone else? You know what they say, people either are Italian or they want to find the Italian who stole their girlfriend last summer. We've all been there. It's a classic, right? There's no shame. But I had a good reason, bear with me. I wanted to be Italian when I was a child. So bad, because I was born in bloody Italy. Fair enough? You would think so, wouldn't you? But the Italian government is not like the British government. Even if you were born there, they don't give you the citizenship unless you have Italian parents. They are not like the British government. Do you know why? Because some governments are stupid. And the Italian government is not one of them. Have you guys heard of the jihadi Beatles? The Brits, have you? So when the Syrian war was going on, a lot of born and raised Europeans went to Syria to join ISIS. That was a big debate, big controversy. And four of them had such thick British accents that the media nicknamed them the Jihadi Beatles. There was Jihadi John and Jihadi Paul. The Jihadi Beatles. You know who we didn't find in Syria? Jihadi Pavarotti. Because the Italian government is not stupid. By the way, how cool is my accent? I chose to learn English with an American accent because I wanted to sound cool. That was not the funny part. And the plan worked, you know. In Italy, people were like, yeah, we get it. Americans saved us in the World War and protected us in the Cold War. To say cool, say veramente cool, say proprio cool. And then I moved to Germany, and the Germans were like, yeah, we get it. Americans saved us in the World War and protected us in the Cold War. Und du bist cool, voll cool, total cool. Eigentlich bist du sehr cool. And then I moved to Britain, and I learned that British people are quite ungrateful. But I understand, because Americans can be very annoying when they come to Britain. They're always like, oh, if it weren't for us, you'd all be speaking German now. If it weren't for us, you'd all be speaking German now. And these Americans don't realize how stupid they sound when they presume that British people would have been capable of learning German. Nobody expected the Brits to learn German, not even the Nazis. In fact, every World War II movie I've watched, the Nazis already speak very good English. Can you imagine these poor Nazis? They are stressed out because they're waging a world war on multiple war theaters, and yet they force each other to communicate in English to get enough practice for the future invasion of Britain. That's how little faith they had in Brits being able to pick up their language.